owners choose practice? If you want to attract somebody, you have to know, one, who they are. So now you're already talking about attracting women, predominantly women. So when you go home, you can think, you know, would a woman like my toilet? Talking of the toilets, be careful when you come out of the ladies. Don't turn into the men's thinking that's the way out. Like what I did. It doesn't work. If you want to attract somebody, you have to know what they like and what they think. So knowing they're female, look at your literature, look at what you're doing. Just make sure it's female friendly. So what do owners do now about choosing your practice? Some of you met this lady, or some of you familiar faces in the room. Where's my mouse gone? Met some pet owners at the beginning of March, last month, and just asked them how they chose their veterinary practice. Again, we do this regularly, talk to owners on a weekly basis, and we film them and they give their permission for their image to be shown for training purposes, so we thank them for that. And there shouldn't be any startling messages, but there are some new faces in the room, so it's worth playing.
Well, there's two vets near each other, and I've heard people what's gone to one, and there's quite a few what go to this other one, and they said it was quite good. And when I know, like, you talk to people when they've got dogs, and say, what vets do yours go to? And the majority of them have gone to this other one, so I thought, oh, I'll go to that one as well.
The cost isn't a huge issue because I have got insurance as well, so a majority of the stuff you get to claim back anyway. But in terms of medication and things that you don't always get to claim back, they are more expensive than I was paying previously, but I don't mind because it's just more of a peace of mind.
We've always had dogs ever since I was little, and we have been as a family at that vet's ever since I can remember. So when I got a dog myself, that was the reason, because it was a family vet's that I registered there.
I think because they're quite close to where I live, and I think the friend who I bought the cats from, they used it and said that it was good, and they were quite reasonably priced as well, which
You can ask around.
yes.
Ask friends, neighbours. If I move to a new area, I'd ask the neighbours.
Yeah, if they've got pets, where
Where they go. Yeah, ask at the library, or just ask around if I move to a new area completely. I didn't know it. Yeah.
Or just nearest to my house. Oh, I know that street. That'll do.
I think that's probably. I think I'd probably just look to see where the nearest one was really. I don't think I'd really ring around and ask prices and things. Probably should do, but I don't think I would.
If it was 3 on the high street, I'd ring each one and find out what the price was.
I guess I'd also visit them and say, can I look at your facilities, and I'm thinking about joining you, and what's your price, and do a
Yeah,
bit
I
of
think
research.
if I'm honest, I would probably go to what was closest and see how I felt when I was there. Do you know what I mean? And then if I didn't feel like it was right, like the same, like if it was a bit dirty, or if you didn't get the right feeling about it, then look for what's probably the next distance-wise, just purely for convenience.
I think I'd just go for the one that was nearest. Because I mean, you could always change afterwards, couldn't you? Once you're talking to people, it's not like you signed up for. Yeah.
I think I'd talk to neighbours if they have pets on the neighbourhood kind of thing, where you go and what they like.
Scary people, those last two. What's the message? What's the big reason that they would? You just like the nearest kind of one and the last of friends. The big question we have to keep kind of. We have to notice that, Mr. T. You have to come out of this one and then go into it. Reasons to choose a veterinary practice. 10 years ago, when we started on this mad journey, recommendation was the number one reason to be using the practice you were using. Oh, my friend said go there, so I go there. We have now more choice. And those guys were talking about local, convenient, my friend goes there, always used as a family vet. Beware the child. Beware the child in your consult room. I'm sure you're all loving the child in your consult room, helping you look in your drawers and your cupboards and find things for you. Those lovely, helpful little 6- and 7-year-olds that you adore. They may not move away from this neighbourhood. They may stay, they may get pets themselves, and then they remember how you treated them. And if you were really nice to them, they might come back. If you weren't really nice to them, they might not. Beware the child. Family vets. This concept of the family vets is quite interesting. Price is last on the list when we do Vox Pop, where we stand on the street with the clipboards and ask people. Price is always last on the list, but shoppable items are absolutely key. So things where they can shop because they know the price. But unless you're local and convenient, you ain't going to attract anybody. So if you're thinking of moving your practice to a really useful industrial estate, which is 4 miles off a major road and can't be seen by anybody, unless they're looking for a plumber's merchant, that ain't hugely attractive. This is a business where if you want to attract, you have to stand there and shout. You really do have to shout now, really loud, all the time, and constantly with a single message. If you're not local and convenient, then you've got a really hard battle. Convenience could be opening hours. Are you open when they want you to be? If you're not open when they want you to be, then that's kind of not helping anybody. So, attraction strategy, point 1. You can write this one down. Local, are you? Now, I know you can't move your practice, but if the ownership pool moves away from you, which has happened with urban regeneration in some towns, the population now doesn't live in town, it lives outside the ring road, and nobody comes in. Revisit, are you accessible and local for the population you need to serve? Opening hours, are you open when they want you to be? I have 5 practices I'm registered with, and they all adore me as a client. They love me lots. But one of them, the one that's nearest to me, closes at 6. I live in a town where people commute. The 5 o'clock train from London doesn't get in till 10 past 6. Is that accessible and convenient? No. Do you ask for the recommendation? We're going to come onto this towards the end of the session. It's all right waiting for people to say, oh, my vet's great, you should go there, because that happens at kind of a random basis, and we have a practice in the room. I'm not going to pick on anybody, I've promised them all, I'm not going to pick on them. We have a practice in the room who know what their client's recommendation rate is for them. When asked, their client base said, oh yes, we'd always recommend this practice. 100% of the clients we spoke to, and it was lots, said, yes, we'd always recommend that practice. They're fabulous, they're gorgeous, they're great, they're wonderful. And then when we said, and how many of you have ever recommended them? It dropped to about 30%. I'm trying not to look at them. Even though they were happy to recommend, they thought the practice was fabulous, they hadn't. Why? Because we hadn't asked them to, or we hadn't given them the mechanic by which they could do it. It just doesn't happen, guys. You know, if you want to attract something, you have to kind of put some messages out there. Family vet, yes, be nice to children. Convenient open hours. Children are a funny one. I know you don't like them particularly, some of you. There's some wry smiles. If you can see what I can see now, it's quite interesting. Children can be a pain, I know, I have one. But they do grow up to own pets, and they probably stay in the locality. And if you're horrible to them, they won't come to you, so just beware. So how many clients do you need? What is typical, what is average? Well, then, if you get all the numbers together and start playing with them, and you dive into databases and start playing with them, and you dive into your own database and start playing with them, you'll find that you have around 100 active households per full-time equivalent vet as a baseline number, and the only data set we have that has been going long enough to see a trend monitoring foot dodge indices has just gone below 1,000 to 900 and
870.
870 it's dropped on the latest. Whoa. 870, right, now if it's dropped below 900, we are in trouble. Because viability, when you do the maths, I am not an accountant, but when you do the viability on 800 clients, you're getting very close to not being, unless you are racking a really high fee position. Wow, that's interesting, I haven't seen that one. Your wastage range is about 25%. You're nodding, so I like you, Diana. You're nodding away so happily. It's very good. You're very obviously informed and wonderful. You are called Diana, aren't you? Yes. Good. I know. I've got good eyesight. I've got good hearing as well. If the wastage rate is 25%, you know, that's pets dying, owners dying, people moving away, people becoming inactive. You've got a higher need for new clients than you probably realise. And if you don't monitor that new client registration as a KPI, you will lose client active database over time.
So what are you defining as active?
Active. Okay. If I were to ask everybody in the room what their definition of active is, their databases will vary, but it's usually they're transacted within a 14-month window. Some databases are 15, some are 13, some are 12. The trouble with the 12 is that you have a higher base because that's just saying how many people came in the last year rather than those who should have come back because they've been once and then again because of the booster window being 12 months. Databases are kicking it at 14, most people's, 14, 15.
Thought what he lit 12.
12.
Which might be why it's been quite a low figure.
Yeah, but it should overstate, interestingly. And what's the database? Most of them pull out at 14, 15. So it rolls around 14 or 15. It's given them a reason to become inactive. 12 doesn't give them that reason to become inactive because they're in the booster window. So this includes people becoming inactive, and this is important because you all go, oh no, we don't lose that many. Yes, you do, because you become inactive. Just because they're on your database doesn't make them useful to you. They're only useful to you if they come in. And this is the challenge we face, is they don't come in. So, 1,000 active clients per full-time, 1,200 active pets. I must get that down. I haven't seen my latest one of those. 85%, these are some core numbers. If you're not familiar with them, it's worth writing these down, but I'm hoping most of you are reasonably familiar with them. That makes you feel really bad if you're not now, so you definitely will write it down. 85% of your owners, if you're urban, are going to be incredibly local to you, incredibly local. If you're more rural, it can move a bit, but in an urban area now, I mean, Phil, just think about some of your practices, Phil, they must be even within 2 miles. Your 85% must be 2, really tight, yeah. The more you become kind of edge of town, semi-rural, it might stretch a bit, but in this current climate, people driving more than 10 miles to get to a vet and passing other practices, you still get them, but very, very few of them. Cat-only practice, anyone cat-only in the room? Cat-only practices? You are different, but you're not here. You're at the cat meeting, that's probably right. But that is different because if you're like me, I would travel a long way with my cat, and I regularly do because of his heart problems and various other strange things. We're prepared to put the energy in because we're into cat. This one, see, I've got a pointer, look at that. Interrogate your database. Half your active database will not be vaccinated. Not within current regimes and protocols, and if they are, you've done a brilliant job, so well done. But I would put my mortgage on that most of you haven't got a database that's fully vaccinated. So just some key numbers. When we talk about attracting people and retaining them, it's really important. You have to have new ones. And I know people say, why do we bang on about new clients? Well, it's a health indicator. It's a huge, huge health indicator of your practice. Ross, I know, is going to go through why people buy and the buying, what makes triggers people, and all the things that go on in our brains, in the female brain particularly. Remember, we're incredibly emotional. Pet owners are emotional creatures. Okay, I'm a vet, but that's so long ago it's unreal. I'm a pet owner. I get emotional about everybody in my family with 4 legs, and some with 2. So if you want my business, don't laugh at me. Don't laugh at me when I ask about Rita, my chicken. Oh, you sniggered. Jackie, don't snigger. This is Rita. She's an independent chicken. She's a woman in her own time. There she is sitting on the sofa with the remote control, the Sky remote. I didn't know she was there, but she kind of just walked away in and sat there. The dog, unfortunately the camera doesn't show, the dog is sat at the other end of the sofa, the 2 of them just sitting there watching the telly. Now, I had to worm my chickens. Who's got chickens? Right. You know what you ring up your vet, well, you all work at vets, so you probably don't ring them, you probably ask. But as a general chicken owner, who are all named, all have names, I rang my 5 vets and said, what is it about worming chickens? Because I've read in the poultry world that I need to worm them. Never wormed a chicken in my life, I work on the farm, for God's sake. And they went, oh, don't know really. Ooh. Well, I'll have a look, I'll get back to you. Now, there is a product for people like me. It comes in a little sachet. It's kind of consumer-focused chicken worming product. No, they all just laughed at me. Why do you want to worm your chickens? Yeah, because I read in a magazine that I'm meant to. Oh, and I thought, beware the chicken. Beware the chicken owners. And there's a whole set of CPD about chickens, pigs, cows and sheep in the BSAVA this year. Because people like me are getting pigs. They're pets. You're a small animal, but chicken's a small animal. It's an emotional relationship. Don't forget how emotional it is. Don't disrespect my chickens.